So when I recite Surah Al-Anfal, and then I join it with Surah At-Tawbah, in my heart, I am commemorating the Sabbath day, thanking Allah for His creation. I never recite the Quran without, when I finish my juz, without thanking Allah for this Quran. Because He says, this is what He says. He says, وَلَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you are grateful to me, I'll give you more and more and more. And so this is the way he recited the Quran to Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. But it takes an effort to recite the long surahs. So now then, why are the long ones at the beginning and at the end only short surahs? The answer would make you smile. Allah wants you to live with the moon. When the moon is young, He wants you to be strong. Make the best effort. Everything you do, do the best work at the beginning of the month. And when the month is old and you're tired, and the moon is old, He gives you short surahs. Make it easy for you. The long surahs are like water. When you drink water, you drink, you don't sip. But in Jannah there is wine. And Allah says about that wine, لَذَّةً لِلشَّارِبِينَ. Are you aware of that? Shake your heads. There's wine in Jannah. And you don't get intoxicated. And He says about that wine, لَذَّةً لِلشَّارِبِينَ. Delicious. Delicious for those who drink. But you don't drink wine, you sip. You sip wine. So the long surahs are like water. The short ones are like wine. The long ones you recite quickly. The short ones you take your time slowly. You savor them. Because the short ones you got to penetrate inside. So this is how we recite the Quran. I don't have the time to give you the entire 30 parts. But I have a book outside entitled The Quran and the Moon. The Quran and the Moon. And if you read that book and you recite the Quran the way that I have explained in that book, then if you perceive time to be moving faster, then after you recite the whole Quran and you khatam the Quran every month, then within a short time, you will no longer perceive time moving faster. And when this heart of yours no longer perceives time moving faster, then you don't have worries anymore. لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. No cause for fear. You won't be even afraid of the politicians anymore, like in Bangladesh. And she had to flee from Bangladesh the way the Americans fled from Afghanistan. That's Bangladesh. So when you recite the Quran this way, and you khatam the Quran at the end of every month, then eventually you will no longer perceive time moving faster. But guess what Dajjal has done? And when we don't think, we simply follow what others are doing, and Dajjal takes us for a ride. I have come back to Malaysia after 5 years. 5 years ago, I was here for about 2 months, perhaps. And before that, 3 years. So it made me 8 years ago I left Malaysia. And I've come back to find a Malaysia which is sleeping. Yes. The country is asleep. And I am waiting to see where I can find that part of Malaysia which is awake. And which is aware of the dangers of this age. Because this part of Malaysia is sleeping or dancing to every tune that Dajjal plays. And the scholars of Islam perhaps are not warning the people because they don't have the freedom to give the khutbah. They don't have the freedom to give the khutbah in this country. You can arrest me if you want and put me in jail. I'll be happy to go to court one day in Malaysia. I'll be very happy to defend myself on this subject if you dare to arrest me. You do not have the freedom in this country to go for Salatul Jummah and listen to an imam who has the freedom to give the khutbah. Because every khutbah is written in advance and scripted. And you have to be a parrot reciting what is written for you. And so I do not perform Salatul Jummah in this country. And you can take that and put it in your pipe and smoke it if you want. Because that's a bogus khutbah. And I remind you that Islam came to this country, Islam came to the world to bring freedom. To bring freedom. And if you have robbed us of freedom in the house of Allah, the scholars of Islam must protest. So I'm inviting the scholars of Islam in Malaysia to raise their voices to restore freedom in the house of Allah, so that the Khatib can speak in the house of Allah and warn the people. Every single copy of the Quran that you pick up today, or I have picked up anywhere in the world, has said at the top that the first Jews, when you see the moon, is until verse 141 of Surah Al-Baqarah. And that is false. That is bogus. That perhaps comes from Dajjal, and it's there in the Quran. Who put it there, I don't know. I don't know who put it inside the Quran, but it's at the top. And the second juz is from 141 of Al-Baqarah to 252. And the third juz is from 252 in Al-Baqarah to 91 in Ali Imran. And the nonsense continues like that. It's nonsense. If you recite the Quran like that, the Quran cannot protect you. So you have to give up that nonsense And when you see the moon on the first day, today was the first day, you recite Al-Fatiha and the whole of Al-Baqarah. How many of you did that today? Put your hands up. 1, 2. Only 2. I told you Malaysia is sleeping. I told you that. So don't invite me to come back to Gallery Rhoda. Don't invite me to come back until you recite in the Quran the correct way. On the first day when you see the moon, recite Al-Fatiha and the whole of Al-Baqarah. On the second day, you recite Al-Fatiha and the whole of Ali Imran. On the third day, you recite Al-Fatiha and the whole of Al-Nisa. On the fourth day, you recite Al-Fatiha and the whole of Al-Ma'idah. On the fifth day, you recite Al-Fatiha and the whole of Al-An'am. On the sixth day, you recite Al-Fatiha and the whole of Al-A'raf. And then when the seventh day comes, and you have commemorated the 6 days of creation, this is your Sabbath day. You recite Al-Anfal, and you combine it now with At-Tawbah. So now I have given you the way of Allah and the way of Shaitan. Shaitan took the Quran like a piece of cloth. The tailor cuts it into 30 equal parts. So that's what they did. 30 bogus. The Quran tells us that the day ends at sunset. The day ends at sunset. Let me repeat it. The day ends at sunset. And the new day begins when the old day ends. Okay. I don't know about Kampung, but check out KLCC. When the 31st day of December comes and reaches midnight, midnight on 31st December, and you hear the fireworks. I don't know whether it's reached Malaysia yet. Has it reached yet? It has? Really? The fireworks? Celebrating what? A new year. That new year is, of course, the new year of the sheep and the cattle and the goats and the camels who have nothing in their head but peanuts. And they are following Dajjal. They are dancing to Dajjal's tunes. Because we know that the day ends at sunset. But these idiots say, no, the day that ends at midnight. And this system of time is now universally applicable. Every airline operates with this system of time. That the day ends at midnight and the new day begins at midnight. This is a PhD in stupidness. Yes. The one that Allah has given us is so lovely, because when the day is coming to an end, there's a riot of colors in the sky. The sky is painted in so many colors. And the sun goes down below the sea as a ball of fire. That is the way Allah gives us the end of the day. And these fools give us the day at midnight, where everybody is asleep except Ampang. So be careful. If you are not careful, you're going to end up like them, asleep. A country which is asleep and dancing to every tune that Dajjal plays. And the politicians are the ones who are mainly responsible for ensuring it continues that way. Allah says that the month is determined by the moon. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَهِلَّةِ. And when they question thee, O Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, about the hilal meaning the crescent moon, the new moon. قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ. Tell them this is the system of time I have ordained for mankind. That with this you will count the years. لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ. And a month with Allah is from one moon to another. And there are 12 moons in a year. 12. Is it so in Malaysia? 12? You have not changed it. No. 12 moons in a year. Somebody with a PhD in stupidity decided, no, 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 no. It is not the moon that must be used to make a month. We will do a better job than Allah did. Is that not stupidness? And this fella decided we no longer need the moon to make a month. We no longer need the moon to make a month. We will take a solar year. Oh, really? Oh, but Allah has given us the solar year for the seasons. رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ. The caravans of the summer going to Damascus, the caravans of the winter going to Yemen. The seasons, spring, summer, autumn, winter, that is the solar year. And the farmer and the fisherman, and so on, they go by the seasons. So now then, this fellow with a PhD in stupidity took one solar year and clumsily divided it into 12 stupid parts. Yes. And he said, sometimes I'll give 31 days already. Oh, but our Prophet said that a month has 30 days, except that sometimes it has 29. This is what our Prophet said. And that fellow with his PhD in stupidity, he said, no, a month can have 31 days. Will any Muslim accept that stupidity? Why are you so quiet, Malaysia? Huh? I'm happy I don't have the politicians here, because I won't be speaking softly if the politicians were here. I'll blast them. So sometimes he gave 31 days. And guess why? He gave 31 days because this is for something called Easter. But that's not a part of my civilization. And this is something called Corpus Christi. But this is not a part of my civilization. And he gives some months 31 days. And sometimes he gives a month 28 days. And sometimes 29. And in this way, in a very clumsy way, he divided a solar year into 12 parts. Is there any Muslim who will accept that nonsense and betray Allah and His Messenger and betray the Quran? Is there any Muslim who will stop looking for the moon? Huh? I don't know why Malaysia is so silent now. This is the danger of Akhir Zaman. When we have people who have lost the capacity to think and they follow blindly what comes from others, and they dance to every tune that comes from others. And the price that they pay is that their hearts will perceive time moving faster and yet faster, because you have left the system of time that Allah has given, and you accepted the PhD, the fellow with PhD in stupidity, the system of time he has given. That's the one you accept. And you're comfortable with it, and you eat your roti chai and you go home and sleep. When I recite the Quran sometimes, I recite many, many, many times, and still I do not get a meaning. And then one day, suddenly, unexpectedly, I will get the meaning. Because the river of knowledge flows at its own speed. And if you are faithful to the Quran, then Allah will give you knowledge when He chooses to give you. And He might give it to somebody else, and not you. So you must learn from others as well. So when Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam was ruling the world from Jerusalem, and the holy state of Israel was the ruling state in the world. He was a king and he was a prophet. Then one day he had what I recognized to have been a vision, ru'ya. And Allah showed him someone sitting on his throne. And the Quran described that person as a jasad. But Suleiman is not like Imran. Me, I would take years to recognize what is the meaning of this vision. But Suleiman, in an instant, this is the wisdom of Suleiman. The prophets of Allah are not like us. So he immediately recognized who was that fellow sitting on the throne. And why did Allah put him on the throne? It was a vision, eh? So he responded by making a dua. And Allah accepted his dua. What was the dua? Rabbi habli mulkan la yanbaghi li ahad min ba'di. Grant that none can inherit my kingdom after me. But this is a Khilafah state. This is the only Khilafah state in the world, Holy Israel in Jerusalem. And this is why Allah put mankind on earth. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. And yet he prays to Allah that none should inherit my kingdom after me. Meaning, let my kingdom perish. Let it collapse. But I don't want that fella to inherit my kingdom. So who can he be? Sulaiman alayhi salam knows about Dajjal because Allah has taught every prophet about Dajjal. So Sulaiman recognized this man is evil. And this man wants to inherit my kingdom. I don't want that. This is Dajjal. But when we interpret the Quran this way, we must always say Allah knows best. Because only Allah can confirm an interpretation. And you must never pick up boxing gloves to fight over an interpretation. Not do that. So now we have come to the conclusion that Allah showed Sulaiman alayhi salam Dajjal sitting on his throne. When Sulaiman died, the Quran says, ما ضلهم عن موته إلا دابة الأرض تأكل من سأته. The commentators of the Quran came to the conclusion almost universally, nearly all of them, that when Sulaiman alayhi salam died, no one knew that he was dead. And his body remained sitting on the throne for a long time. How long? For as long as it took some termites to start biting at the bottom of the staff. How many months will it take? How many years will it take for the termites to bite enough at the bottom of the staff so that the staff would lose its balance? It wouldn't take 1 week. It would take much more than that. And when the staff lost its balance, then the body collapsed. And only then did the people know that Sulaiman died. You have to forgive me. My language is harsh. I say that is nonsense. Yes, you have to forgive me. But I make no apologies for saying that qualifies as nonsense. Yet it's there in all the tafsir. This is why Allah says, I want you to think. I send the Quran لِقَوْمِ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Don't follow the trodden path. Accept everything which has come from before. Don't do that. Critically assess it. And if it is correct, you accept it. But if it is nonsense, you say it is nonsense, and I say this is nonsense. How could a king be sitting on his throne for the whole day without eating anything, without drinking anything? Doesn't he have to go to the toilet? Huh? Doesn't he have to go to the bedroom and sleep? And you expect me, that Allah gave me a sense in my head, and I will accept that the king can remain on his throne sitting for weeks and months and maybe years, and no one knew he was dead? That is nonsense. And the Quran cannot have nonsense. So then what does the Quran tell us? That is a part of this subject of how to prepare for Akhir Zaman with the system of time, that is connected with it. Sulaiman alayhi salam not only asked that none should inherit my kingdom after me, but also the same ayah means that there could never be another kingdom like mine. So Allah responded by ordering the jinn, the shayateen of the jinn, to work for him. And if he orders them and they don't obey him, they will be punished with terrible punishment. So long as he was alive, the shayateen had to work for him, shayateen of the jinn. Some of these shayateen were in chains. وَآخَرِينَ مُقَرَّنِينَ فِي الْأَصْفَادِ. When he died, everybody knew he was dead, except the jinn. Except the jinn. Why did the jinn not know that he was dead? Answer: because the jinn could see him still alive. Yes, even though he was dead, the jinn was seeing him walking and talking and eating and drinking. How is it possible? Today, you used to have a prime minister named Tunku Abdul Rahman. Today, you can turn on your television, you can see him. You could hear him. Yeah. Indonesia, once upon a time, had a great leader that Indonesia has now forgotten. His name was Ahmad Sukarno. Huh? But you could turn on your TV, you could see Ahmad Sukarno today, but at that time. How was it possible that the jinn could see him alive when he was dead? Answer: the Jasad was sitting on the throne. وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّا سُلَيْمَانَ وَأَلْقَيْنَا عَلَى كُرْسِيهِ جَسَدٍ. The Jasad was sitting on the throne, and the Jasad was holding on to the staff. But the staff had a miraculous quality in it. The staff of Musa, alayhi salam. Throw it on the ground, it became a serpent, a snake. The staff of Musa strike the water, and then the Red Sea parted. The staff of Musa strike the rock, and then 12 streams of water came out. So the staff has a miraculous quality in it. The shirt of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam. Take my shirt, throw it on my father, Yaqub alayhi, his eyesight will return. The messengers of Allah are like that. So the staff had something in it called a minsa'a, which is seen, minsa'a. And so long as the staff has the minsa'a, whoever is holding the staff, listen carefully, can intervene in time, can bring about forward and backward movement in time, and can therefore show Suleiman still alive. But this is the corruption of time. This is changing time. And in Surah At-Tawbah, Allah warns, He says, إِنَّمَا النَّسِيءُ زِيَادَةٌ لِلْكُفْرِ, that the corruption of time is the road to ever increasing kufr. So now then, who or what is the Jasad? Answer, the Jasad is Dajjal. And Dajjal is still holding on to the stuff at this time. And Dajjal is able to intervene in time with backward and forward movement of time. And therefore I can say to you today from Ampan that there is a tomorrow coming when the world is going to witness things happening in the world of time that at this time we don't see. It's coming tomorrow because he's still holding on to the stuff and he can still intervene in time. And that means that the danger of attack in the world and the system of time is going to become more and more dangerous. And that is why in Akhir Zaman you need protection. And the best protection of all, which will bring the heart back to the system of time Allah has created, is to recite the Quran the way that Allah has recited it. Sometimes your juz is only one surah, but you never ever leave a surah incomplete. Never. And you should always try to recite your juz before you sleep. Sometimes even Nabi Muhammad was too busy and he could not get time to recite his juz at the time of Fajr. Sometime with me as well. And any time you do not recite your juz at the time of Fajr, Shaitan makes it difficult all through the day. All through the day you cannot get time to recite the Quran. Until when the time comes to sleep and you're tired, then you remember, I've not recited the Quran as yet. But Nabi Muhammad والسلام, would not sleep until he had recited his juz of the Quran. Yes. Very seldom does it ever happen with me that I'm too tired and too sleepy and I have to sleep without reciting my juz. And the next day I have to recite two juz. This very seldom happens, very seldom happens. Nearly every day I recite my juz before Fajr or immediately after Fajr. And when I do that, the rest of the day passes very nicely. But sometimes I do not have the time, or I'm too tired. I'm an old man now. And I cannot recite my juz at the time of Fajr. Then I have to try to find time during the day to recite it, but before I go to sleep. This is what I leave with you tonight, that the danger of the system of time is the greatest danger of all in Akhir Zaman. The corruption of the system of time which came from Allah. And if you abandon and you betray the system of time which has come from Allah, the punishment is that you will perceive time moving very fast, faster and yet faster. And when you perceive time moving faster and yet faster, that is the evidence that you have abandoned the system of time that Allah has given and you're following Dajjal. So do please read my book, the Quran and the Moon, and follow the recitation I've given there, and inshallah you will recite the Quran every month. But more important, vastly more important, is to get your children. When the child is 7 years of age, the child should be able to recite the Quran. When the child has reached 10 years of age, the child should be able to khatam the Quran every month. And when you finish, you start again. And when you finish, you start again. And that child will keep on reciting the Quran all through his life. And the Quran will protect that child from ever becoming a politician. All right. So now we can have a question and answer session, inshallah.